5FM Radio, bringing you hot, smoldering topics on a weekly basis. Your participation is important.
Welcome to the Burning Issue Tuesday edition on the 24th of December 2024. Now, today on the program, I am hosting Simuuwe, who is the United Party for National Development UPND research consultant, discussing different issues, developmental issues, as well as also politics and elections, among other things. We are live here in Lusaka on 89.9, as well as also live on our partner radio stations. That is Spice FM, broadcasting on 91.1 FM in Central Province, Tuta FM on 90.7 in Mansa, that is Luapula Province, as well as in Ndola, Copperbelt Province, we are on Platinum Radio on 99.7 FM. Also, not forgetting, we are live on our Facebook page, 5FM Radio Zambia, as well as our YouTube channel, 5FM Radio Zambia. Not forgetting also, we are streaming live on the Millennium TV Facebook page, UPND Zambia, Falcon, and the Daily Nation Facebook page. I am your host, Lance Sannie Banda, sitting in for Zachariah Banda. Mr. Simuuwe, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Lance. It's a pleasure to share the platform with you, especially on 5FM. I think the last time that what looked like a conversation was the time that you were associated with this Pan-African Radio. Yes, and you having worked differently at Prime Television, though you were much in the production room, as much as you could make certain programs. You could present certain programs.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to be here, especially that we're coming to the close of 2024, and it is likely, most likely that in the year 2024, this is the last 5FM program I'm having. In the next remaining days, it's unlikely that media rules would allow you to bring back a guest within 5 days, or among many other speakers that are dotted all over the country.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, so it's been a while since we hosted you here on this program, so I would be right to say compliments of the season.
Thank you very much, and compliments of the season to you, as well as the dear listeners on the Copper Belt. I'm sure they tuned in to Platinum Radio, which is based in Dolan also.
Yes.
Then you have also Spice FM Central Province. You also have Tuta in Luapula, and many others that are found in areas where we can have Kawambwa tea. And not forgetting Wave FM. I think Wave FM is in Mazaboka. iWave is one on the Copper Belt, yes. And then Millennium TV also. It's Millennium TV, it's not just page.
Oh, yeah.
The Millennium Television viewers who are maybe catching us live, maybe across the country. You also have Falcon and UPND page followers in the diaspora, especially those that are watching us from the UK, from the United States of America, from Asia, from China. I know that in China this time around it could be towards the evening, and those that are catching us live in South Africa, West Africa, and many others that are in different embassies that could be following this discourse.
Well, let's begin with politics. We'll be going stage by stage. Let's begin with politics. First things first, you mentioned Kawambwa tea, and just last week we had a by-election in Kawambwa, and for the very first time, the UPND gave birth to a first son in Kawambwa. How is the feeling, or what is your analysis of this by-election?
We are not shocked, because just recently there was a mayoral or council chairperson elections, and we won in the same area. I'm sure you're aware of that. Those that have been following politics in Kawambwa, abali kutika Kawambwa kwa nangola abatandalira ku Kawambwa nabeshibo kuba twali kwetama elections Kawambwa ya council chairperson twali wina na kuli okufuma bakikota Steve na kwena twali wina. So ekirepirwa ko bati UPND irekula kiranshita. And also I wish to mention that it is a well-known fact. Political parties come and go. In this 21st century, it's unlikely that one would think of a political party to run the country in perpetuity. As political parties are coming and going, citizens are also aligning themselves on a daily basis with political parties of their choice. And the Constitution allows them to associate.
Okay.
So there's nothing wrong with that. And for us, that victory is fundamental. We have Mr. Musonda, now Honorable Musonda, into Parliament, demonstrating an increase on the number of members of Parliament that UPND has. In addition to the others that we got in Kabushi, as well as in Kitwe there. So it's a sweet victory. And the people that put in much effort in campaigning, I'm sure you're aware that some even left Lusaka. We had women leaving Lusaka, young ladies leaving Lusaka, going to campaign to tell people there the wonderful message of CDF, the wonderful message of free education, the wonderful message of skills training, the wonderful message of doing roads using CDF. They were told, the electorates there in Kawambwa were told the wonderful message of social caste transfer, which has been split into two. Number one, the message to do with ordinary social caste transfer. Secondly, the emergence social caste transfer, the wonderful message of food for work and work for food. That these are fundamental programs that we are making. And then also the wonderful message of the realization that even in many other parts of the country, there are a lot of projects that government is undertaking, that Kawambwa people are not absent from what is happening on the copper belt. They do understand that the mining sector has been revamped. They are also aware that whichever school has new desks in Kawambwa, it is coming from CDF, which was not the case previously. They are aware that the health posts that have so far been set up in Kawambwa are coming from CDF. They are also aware that out of CDF, there are youths in Kawambwa that have been trained in skills training, in carpentry, in welding, in general agriculture, understanding that that is an agricultural area. And also the very fact that some key roads in Wapula are also being done. That is good news for the people of Kawambwa. And they had to make a decision. They were also being reminded that right now, the only relevant political party to vote for is the UPND, on an understanding that there is no opposition right now to the UPND government, UPND, party, as a party. So we are on firm ground as a political party. Yeah.
Well, you may say you are on firm ground as a political party, but Mr. Simuuwe, this is not the first time. We've always seen dominance from the ruling party scooping different by-elections. But then when it comes to the general election, it's always a different ball game. It's always a different feeling. But then how does this boost your morale as a party? And you being the research consultant, how does this boost the morale for the UPND? And what indicators does it give to the party in regards to the 2026 general elections?
It is not always the opposite. I'll tell you something. The best way to determine your strength is to perform well during periodic elections, number one. Secondly, to also monitor which political party is getting the secondary position every time you have elections. You may wish to know that we were able to tell that MMD was gone the moment Mr. Sata and the PF started grabbing seats from them. Do you get the point? They started grabbing seats. Similarly, when PF started losing to the UPND to such an extent that they could escort HH with Chimbakamwidi from Chilubi Island up to Wapula in Mansa, kicking them away from the campaign area, and they could only use serious firearms in order to run elections. As a case in point in Kaoma, where Lawrence Banda died, for them to win that election, a life was lost. They wanted to do the same in Sesheke, where HH himself was almost killed there. He escaped death there. There were live ammunition being used. He had to walk in the forest in the night. Now, all they wanted was to win an election. Now, the moment you see the ruling party getting there, then you know they are gone. So it is easy to tell through by-elections. When you are winning by-elections with ease, remember, that is previously the stronghold of the opposition. Even for the UPND to have performed like that, this is why we should be glad as after seeing that victory. You may wish to know that it is not strange. UPND won in Northern Province at presidential level. President HH got for 51%, ECL got 49% at presidential level in Northern Province. Records are there online on the ECZ website. Now, so there is nothing strange with UPND winning there, because what was happening, there were certain parts previously where they could say this is a no-go area. And when they say it's not a no-go area, they would not allow the UPND to go there and campaign. You remember that the MP for Seshek was arrested when there was just solidarity for Mucheleka, Honorable Mucheleka, when he was appearing in court. They could organize thugs along the way to attack people that went simply to support their counterpart, arising from maybe a by-election that took place there. You had my comrades, Anthony Wadi and Mubita now, arrested in Wapula. It is in Wapula where they were demonstrating rigged elections with more than one NRCs given to an individual, and they were arrested for demonstrating those NRCs. It was in Wapula where we had infants being registered, including foreigners. So we know very well that when we have free and fair elections, PF would never win even at their time in Wapula, because we know what was happening. We did our homework. First of all, how did PF win in Wapula in many of the cases? What was happening? What brought that I want you to understand that it is not always the case. I'm sure you know that Mahindra, which has led someone to be convicted for many years, is what was stopping UPND from speaking to the people of Kawamba. What you saw, where they will set, they had people scampered for their lives, they grabbed the vehicle and set it ablaze. Bao Chamotoka. The vice president was given a serious chase by the Chilangwa group. They had to run for their lives. They went only to campaign there, to speak to the people. Now that you don't have that particular barrier of being stopped from campaigning, they could now walk in and make it. In case you've forgotten, in Kaputa, from 2016 to 2021, UPND had 4 councillors. How did we win? So that is how we knew PF was gone. The area where the vice president grew up from. We had 4 councillors who were from time to time being whisked away. They were following them with sacks of money. I remember one time I met them here in Lusaka. They had to camp here. It was in the same Luapula where they lost 2 members. I think 2 of them were councillors. They resigned from the PF when PF was in government. Now, if you can't see what people of Luapula were doing, then you can doubt the victory that is going on there. If you cannot reflect on what was happening in Luapula then you will not understand the terrain politically of that particular area. You would think it's a fluke and not an outright win. I'm just from telling you that UPND already got into Luapula as in the opposition. They were able to win in one town 4 councillors outrightly, beating the ruling party with all government machinery.
Now, there's something.
So, when you say, how do we use this to gauge ourselves for 2026? UPND is trying to gauge itself not only by elections that are being held, but by the number of projects that we are doing. The best campaign message to the people of Zambia are fulfilled programs, and also giving a roadmap for unfulfilled programs that are still under consideration. Remember, we still have a term within ourselves. 3 years is gone. We are now dealing with the remaining period. Among the things on the score sheet, we talked about free education when our friends said it was not practical to provide free education. It was also not practical to provide grants to all the schools across the country. It is done. They doubted the implementation of this particular UPND policy until classrooms were full. Then they turned around and said, how do you declare free education before you build schools? Little did they know that alongside free education, there are classroom blocks that are being built under CDF. And as we speak, from the time we assumed leadership, over 1,000 classroom blocks have been built across the country under CDF. 1 by 3 classroom blocks, and in some parts, they have also constructed some houses for teachers out of CDF. Now, you may also wish to know that understanding that when you provide free education, it means there will be so many people that are completing grade 12, but they have no money to go to tertiary institutions. So UPND had a deliberate plan by coming up with skills training. What is skills training? Basically giving them artisanal skills. What are these artisanal skills? Welding, welder, foot bakapala bambao, or carpenters. Training in carpentry. The other thing that they were given for those that are following us on TV and radio, which they have covered mostly, Lance. The other thing is tailoring. Women are being taken for tailoring for free. The other thing is youths are being taken to go and learn how to drive, how to operate earth-moving machines, such as graders that are being bought by different councils. They are being trained in those areas for free by government. Then, just an example, early this year, we had 400 youths in Solweza alone trained in repairing heavy-duty earth-moving machines. And it was presented on different media platforms. Now, that is what the UPND is using to gauge ourselves. How many from employment freeze, because the previous friends stopped recruiting. They had stopped employing the youths. Okay? They had stopped creating jobs in public service and in the private sector. So what the UPND did was to start recruiting by realigning policies and also creating prudence in public expenditure. How did we do it? Government had to also put money out of what is being collected from various institutions that are given the mandate by law to collect levies, by ensuring that money is made available to recruit youths. What have we done in the recruitment area? Because that's part of the messages that resonated with the youths to vote for change. They said, look, we have qualifications and we are on the street. We are not sure we are going to be recruited. Only children of ministers are being recruited. Only children of deputy secretary generals are being taken to rely for training. We have qualifications. We have no jobs. UPND came up with a system of recruiting thousands every year. As we speak, over 7,000 teachers this year have been recruited. That's 7,000 teachers. You can get the whole period for the PF of over 10 years. They are not reaching 7,000 teachers. Are you aware of that? That is just for this year. Then we went further and recruited over 30,000 that ago. There is no country under the sun which God created with that kind of record. Not even in the USA, not even in Europe. When that was done, it is at that point that leaders in Europe had to invite HH. They sat down and said, have you heard what this African leader is doing? He just recruited over 30,000 teachers. Don't tell me. You mean the country that is highly indebted? They said, yes. Where has he gotten the money from? That he has stopped certain projects in government and unnecessary expenditure and gotten that money. Again, what he has done, he has gotten money from the central government, which was being abused previously. He has thrown it to the community through CDF in thousands. Then they said, there's no country in Africa that is doing that. As we are speaking, my brother, the whole government of Namibia had to send a delegation. I'm sure you saw it. They landed in Zambia to come and learn what is happening. Now, Zambia is creating a template for African states to come out of poverty. They are now coming to check how CDF is working. They are saying, no. I think this is the way. If you cannot give your own citizens skills in carpentry, tailoring, bricklaying, welding, general agriculture, fish farming, then you cannot bring out people. You cannot bring people out of abject poverty. And all countries are saying, and this is by constituency, meaning the country now can start moving at a go. And now it is appealing to many African countries. As we are speaking today, we had officers from ZNS. Now, I hope you are listening. You had officers from ZNS whom I met at Oliver Tambo Airport in South Africa. I asked one of them. I just saw someone creating passage for me. I said, but who are you? No, sir, you can stand here, blah, blah. Who are you? And I said, I'm General ABCD. You came to visit? No, we were conducting trainings. South Africa now, a country far ahead of Zambia, wants to introduce what looks like ZNS because of in the manner in which ZNS is being run, where they have introduced different programs. I'm sure you are aware that the government, through the cabinet, have already approved a policy position in which there will be voluntary national service people going there. to get skills that they need as citizens, regardless of where they're coming from. And the president has pledged to sponsor a certain number of youths. Now, you may recall at the same time, Lance, that one of the messages that came from the West was that we are glad that youths in Zambia have stamped out corruption. They focus by the UPND so much on the same youths. We are aware that those that are getting recruited in the military, over 4,500 so far, are youths. We are aware that the over 40,000 youths recruited in teaching voted for change. And this is not segregative. To demonstrate that, UPND now is above politics. UPND government. What we have done is, even PF members are being recruited. Let me demonstrate. By-elections, over 80% of the by-elections that have been caused in Northern Province and Ruapula at councillor level is because councillors have been recruited as teachers, some as health workers. I'm sure you've heard of that. And those councillors are from PF. That is how we planned the country must be run. The activities of the government, when you are using taxpayers' money, should transcend the boundaries of political discourse. And understand that whether in the Tonsa Alliance, whether in UKWA, whether in UPPZ, whether in any political party, you are still a Zambian citizen and you must have a stake in the national cake. That is the narrative from the UPND government. In addition to that, the president pledged to reunite the country because it was divided on ethnic grounds. What did he do? He first started by coming up with a cabinet that represents all the regions in the country. Secondly, pushing for an amendment to the law so that we seriously criminalize ethnic hegemony, so that we can bring to an end the pettiness of ethnic rivalry, so that Zambia can identify poverty as their biggest enemy, not each other. A Bemba should be able to get a contract like any other citizen because this is their country. A Namwanga must be able to get a contract without anybody looking at their tribe because this is their country. A Kaonde Chokwelu Valley should be able to get anything in government because this is their country. Chewan Sengas, Ngonis, the Lenges, Ilas, Solis should be able to get a stake from this country because this is their country. So the focus now should be directed to our intellectual capability. It is for this reason that the government can proudly announce that the other day we paid CDF in full across the country.
Oh.
So we are bringing in a different type of politics, but it takes time. Now, that food for work we are talking about is a mindset. I want to now to explain. It's a mindset change strategy UPND is putting in place because these citizens were used to tulie motantamen. We are trying to change the mindset of citizens that work pays. So deliberately, government, instead of government just dishing out, while they are doing that in some parts for those that are really vulnerable, okay, under the DMMU, government has taken a deliberate position that we need to change our mindset as a citizenry, because if we don't do that, many people will remain poor and they'll be looking forward to handouts. So when we say food for work, people will do some very little work. You give them something of more value than what they have done. What we are trying to do, and people are responding positively, mind you. And it's working. It's a strategy that is working to change the mindset of Zambians, attuning them to work and be paid. It's a strategy. Next, understanding that FISIP is unsustainable. The people under FISIP will remain poor for the rest of Zambia's life. Government undertook to introduce credit facilities that allow for those that may want to apply for irrigation equipments to access them under the CEEC as well as under the CDF initiative. And the response has been very overwhelming. I've met university students who have ventured into farming. One of my colleagues just called me, mwana, ninkwata 600 bags. Namu pionjebele yariku kukoba beuti. Where exactly near Rufanyama? Numbo musebeta wa wina. No, so wala station. Then he said, I'm trying to look for transport. He told me FRA has already swept that maize. He told me that's winter maize. I said, wow. So you have cash, cool cash, my brother. In 3 months. In 3 months, a person is getting more than 2 million. Where will you get that kind of money? From farming, out of the initiative of government under irrigation equipment. And now the president says farming now in Zambia should not be a one-off season activity. We want to be producing food throughout the year. And people are responding very well. Now, I want to demonstrate how they're responding. You remember previously, people were talking about, no, there are toxins in maize and so on. Because many citizens don't understand that when the maize is not dry and the moisture content is high, it is poisonous. It's the first time some of them are engaging in winter maize, because it would just dry off season. Now, after harvesting it, they have to be taught that this maize has been designed in such a manner that they are dryers in milling companies. They have to dry it up to a certain content. That's when you start milling it. They said, oh, that's how it is. So now you are learning an art that is unique, and we need to embrace it. Understanding there is a drought also, regardless of how good the situation is. Government has a multifaceted approach towards farming, where we are engaging now in water harvesting. 1,000 cubic dam being erected also in Mumbo, I'm sure you're aware of that, by ZNS, and many other parts of the country. When we engage in water harvesting, then farmers can start tapping water from there. Okay? In addition to that, the package for irrigation equipment has solar pumps to enable the farmers to water their crop throughout the season.
Well, now that you've mentioned it, I think let's get to talk about it. The year 2024 has seriously or really been challenging to the general citizenry of the country, owing to the fact that, yes, the country was hit with a drought, and possibly we are heading into another dry spell because of the current weather pattern, the way it's moving. But then let's get to review 2024. The dry spell, people obviously complaining. We've seen less of electricity generation. We've seen obviously the shortage of fuel. We've seen the shortage of milling meal. We've just seen a whole lot of hardships on the general citizenry. How would you say the government has come in to help alleviate or look into its people to see to it that certain impacts are cushioned in a way and life continues?
Now, the UPND have taken the things that you have listed as challenges with solutions lined up as follows. Let me start with electricity. UPND admits load shedding has left devastating effects not only on the higher class people or citizens, but the SMEs. The president has been talking about this, small and medium enterprises. Of course, under the CDF initiative, some youths have been empowered with generators, but they also need fuel to run, which is an added cost. But in the interim, because some of them are saying, look, we have no money to buy these things. So government undertook to also buy industrial gensets for key institutions such as health centers. I'm sure you saw them coming, strategic health centers. And then thirdly, we saw government putting up in markets. Okay, you go to garden there, they put up a genset. Whom are they targeting? They are targeting the small and medium enterprises, those that are found in garden market there, who are engaging in tailoring. Because the government understands that if they don't have power, especially those that don't use manual machines, sewing machines, they will not manage to work. Those that have electric machines, there are sisters that are doing pedicure, manicure, beauty spa in general, who need power to dry the nails, and after working on them, they need power to actually use those blowers they use. They need power to use those straighteners they use. They need power, including our brothers that are running barber shops. They need power in that particular area. So in some strategic, not all of them, in some strategic points, government undertook to put in place generators run by the local authorities as an interim solution, or in the short term, because that can never be long term. In the long term, the government, through your president, went out of their way, knowing that ZESCO was highly indebted, and we found over $1.7 billion. Today, as we speak, it has come to around $600 million as the money that ZESCO is owing different stakeholders. So you are aware at least of Mamba Quarries, which was owed about 500 million. That is a lot of money. Government undertook to dismantle that. And what we did in order to deal with the issues of electricity was to push through the cabinet certain policies that allow for the private sector to fully engage in generation of power and be able to supply. Previously, they may not supply. They will need certain clearances and be able to supply, including citizens now. If you produce 10, 20, or 50, 30 kVA, you are allowed to put and add and attach to the national grid after satisfying certain rules within ZESCO. And as a solution to this problem, because we understand that this issue of load shedding is the worst in the history of this country, coming from the worst drought ever experienced, even found on BBC, CNN, and being talked about by the World Bank. Even the African Union coming on board. I'm sure you're aware that the African Union have brought a donation to this country.
Yeah.
You get the point? All African countries sat and said, gentlemen, what has happened in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Malawi is strange. The AU, they sat. We cannot keep quiet. It is just last week. And they brought the money. The African Union, Egypt, Nigeria, Sudan, DRC, South Africa, among others, put money together and said, Zambia, here you are. We understand what you went through is beyond you. That's why the president has continued talking about it as a natural disaster. When you lose food supply chain, it does not recover within one farming season. It is a process. Because it leaves effects on the prices of foodstuffs on the market, which do not also drop immediately. They drop over time. And this is what we are grappling with. When people complain that food is expensive, it is true. When the supply is low, people are demanding for food. The supply is low because farmers could not produce accordingly. The price will go up. What is the solution? Government earmarked 17,000 farmers to give them irrigation equipment. Some of them have already started. So the recovery is a process. And we are seeing already winter maize, ZNS, FRA, in conjunction with FRA, they have been collecting winter maize from February. And as we speak, remember government had projected to try to get about 650,000 metric tons of maize. Now this is likely to reduce because FRA so far has collected substantive stock from within the country through winter maize. We have realized that this is working, meaning we are putting this country in a position that will enable it to be food secure should we be confronted with a similar problem of extreme droughts in the future. The next point, which we have done, is that under this electricity program, apart from allowing, so the president commissioned, did a groundbreaking ceremony at Mamba Quarries for 300 megawatts, in addition to the existing 300 megawatts, which Mamba Quarries is already producing. Because previously, Mamba Quarries had stopped supplying ZESCO because ZESCO owed the money. So when the UPND came in, they decided to clear what was owed, and they had to renew their relationship between ZESCO and Mamba Quarries. So Mamba Quarries now is targeting to produce 600 megawatts. Now, for those who are listening to us in Mazabuka, who are listening to us in Kawambuka, who are listening to us through Twitter FM, those who are listening to us through Spice in Central, through Wave FM, those listening to us through Millennium TV and watching Millennium TV, Falcon and UPND page, including the Daily Nation newspaper Facebook page. What is 600 megawatts? I want to use an example so that people understand what we are talking about. For example, Luapula province alone uses only about 15 megawatts. Lusaka uses at peak hour, uses 600 megawatts. Lusaka uses 600 megawatts at peak. Now, Botswana as a whole country, the whole country of Botswana is using 500 megawatts. Lusaka is using more than Botswana as a country. So meaning what Mamba Quarries will start producing after that equipment the president has commissioned, after cabinet has relaxed the rules to allow the private sector to start producing so that ZESCO is not a monopoly, will be producing 600 megawatts. In other words, Mamba Quarries alone can power the whole Botswana. That is the meaning of the 600 megawatts your president was seen commissioning. So that is not a joke. Let's go to Ndola or Kitwe, Copper Belt Energy, which was restricted because of the rules that were in existence, which have so far been removed. The 60 megawatts which was commissioned there, if Luapula uses, it means 60 megawatts can power Luapula, Muchinga, Northern Province. But they cannot take the whole of it there, because while you have load shedding, you are revamping the mining sector. And once the mining sector is revamped, then you shut the door. You close up for that activity. Then it's a fight against logic. If you don't supply them power, you are done. Then the mines can't run. So meaning, the demand for electricity amidst load shedding has become high. Even when the mines were down, we had gotten something from the mines which was mopped sometime last year. But this time the demand is higher. What does government do? Meaning, whatever has been added must ensure that these mines don't face challenges. Because the mines are indirectly addressing an economic issue by recalling the workers that lost jobs when KCM was liquidated. By also recalling already over 1,000 workers at Mopani. Now we found an investor at Lubambe mine in Chirirabombwe. Lubambe mine, remember there's Lubambe mine and there's KCM. KCM sits in Chirirabombwe and Chingola. So Lubambe mine now has a proper investor. Meaning more jobs now for the people of Chirirabombwe, Chingola, and the surrounding areas. Muchinshi there, Mushishima area, and the Kingovwa. Including Lufwanyama area. Because Lufwanyama, remember, Lufwanyama, you can meet it from Rwansha, Kalurushi. It goes around Chingwala. You will find it again when you are driving from Chingwala to Solwezi. You find Lufwanyama again there. It's so vast. So that is the meaning. Now, let me get back to electricity and wind up on this quickly, because you've raised issues and these are very important for us to deal with, so that people can see that there is no sitting aimlessly and watching the situation, the helpless situation. This is what government is doing. Under electricity, ZESCO and the Chinese power utility company have undertaken to sign MOUs to set up that solar plant at Kariba North Bank, which will produce 100 megawatts. Now we understand what it means. We're talking about the watts. 100 megawatts there, then another 100 megawatts in this Kafiwe, lower hydro power station at Kafiwe, through solar. Another one in Chisamba, another one in Itestezi. If we get 100, this is 400. Then we know where we're getting to. What has been the deficit, which has made us suffer the way we've suffered, which have made our brothers and sisters in markets suffer, which has made the prices of commodities to go up. Remember, when there's no power, the cost of living goes up. I want to demonstrate how it goes up. I'll deal with that. Now, before I forget it, let me just nail it a bit. If my brother, who has been relying on electricity, decides to acquire a genset, they will be paying, meaning their expenditure has gone up. When their expenditure goes up, it means they have to adjust the charges for barbing, for shaving. They have to adjust. Similarly, for our sister who is running pedicure, manicure, or beauty spas, they will do the same. Because they will have electricity maybe for 3 hours at an awkward time. Meanwhile, the whole day, when they need to have the customers, they will need to run a genset the whole day, meaning that is extra cost. They will also adjust so that they can keep the profit margin. That's what raises the cost of living up. So you can see that there's a relationship between the cost of living and the drought. Because the drought has taken away power. Power has raised the cost of living up. Even the mother who is selling tomato will tell you, "Mwana, $15, so I'm also adjusting." And this is what has been happening. So to unpack this, these are the solutions government is putting in place, which don't come overnight. I've already talked about short-term ones. Short-term ones are those like putting up some generators in the key areas where you have to save lives. For example, health institutions. Okay? At strategic markets, not all the markets, key markets. Next, government, through this same MOU between ZESCO and the Chinese company, to put up solar panels on rooftops in different parts of the country. Someone wakes up and says it's not tenable. It is tenable. China has a population of over 1.4 billion people. Not billion, 1.4 billion people. you could be talking about over 200 million. In fact, according to the records I was picking the time I got there, close to 400 million citizens are using renewable energy, the same solar. There's a province called Xinjiang, which is the biggest province in China. That province is almost the size of Southern Africa. You can be within the same province, flying for 4 hours, you are in the province. For more than 4 hours, you are flying. 6 hours, you're in the same province. It borders 3 huge countries. I think should be Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Russia. That population I'm talking about has been done, and China partnering with Zambia that we can undertake this project. Now, understanding that hydropower stations may be a waste of money, like the hydropower station that has been expanded in Simuuwe, started by our colleagues in the Patriot Front and abandoned. The president looked for money and bought 4 turbines, each one producing 150 megawatts, which is 600 in total. Okay? And he put up the equipment there. After he was done with that, it means that hydropower station must run on water. Understanding that Simuuwe may not have enough water because of what is going on. The other project they signed is to link Ruapura River to Simuuwe River. Instead of us getting Ruapura River, take water to Congo River and it goes to the ocean. Because Ruapura has been throwing it into Congo. And the narrative is that let Ruapura throw into Zambia. Tumyanga kofyame nshapitirira. So they want to divert. China has done that before. And they are doing a similar project from somewhere Nile River into the desert region in North Africa. They are doing a similar project from the southern China to the northwestern China, which is a desert, putting up an artificial river, which will be taking water there. But the distance we're talking about is very small. So, these are projects that government is undertaking under electricity. Now, another one, which is an emergency now, they had to import power because knowing that Zambia is the cheapest power in the region, that's why we've been exporting previously, because Zambia was a net exporter. And the motivation to expanding the hydropower station in Simuuwe was not only centering on Zambian consumers. It was because of exports, because there's money there. So our colleagues, for example, in the PF, they said we need to expand because for the whole country in Zambia, do you know how much we need? We need only about 1,700 megawatts to run the whole country at peak. But our anticipated generation is over 3,000 megawatts. If all things being equal, I mean all things being equal, over 3,000. So what is the surplus for? The intention was to export because of taking advantage of water bodies. But this has been choked. The initiative was right, but it has been dislocated by natural disasters. The money all pumped into Simuuwe hydropower station will be wasted if there is no rain. By our friends in the PF. Borrowed money. It will be wasted if there is no rain. So the UPND government says, look, instead of that money being paid, we've already done debt restructuring. We've already started paying what ZESCO owes, which our friends got, then abandoned the project. We have to look for money to finish this project. After finishing it, we turn on the turbines. They went further and bought another one. Should be 30 to produce 30 kV kilowatts. Should be megawatts at Victoria Falls. That is another one which was installed. Then the government says, no, you know what? Let us encourage these who have been there, like CEEC. There is Ndola Power there, which is also anticipated to produce over 100 megawatts. Then there is Nalolo Power Plant in Western Province, which was also setting up solar plants there. Then you may recall that there has been a feasibility study that has been going on to put up a facility in Western Province that will enable us, and even in some parts of the country, which will enable us to get maximum power from renewable energy. Now, with all that initiatives put together, which are long-term projects, that is how we have been responding to the drought and climate change. These projects did not come in an impromptu manner. They have been on the UPND agenda. When the president, for example, went to Israel, it was before the flood hit Zambia. These projects I'm talking about, they were on the UPND agenda, but they become more visible and vivid because of the drought. This is how I'm demonstrating that they were in our agenda. When the UPND president, who is also the president of the Republic of Zambia, went to Israel, people were laughing. He said, we want to learn more about climate smart agricultural technology. The opposition started laughing and said, you can't all be farmers. He's in Israel there. Eh? The following months we were hammered by a drought, my brother. And now climate smart agricultural technology is the language. When government decided to earmark 70, because the opposition came back and said, what are you doing amidst the drought in parliament? They started asking the ministers, what is government doing? What preparations are they making ahead of the drought for our people? That's the question they asked. We simply reminded them that when we went to Israel to go and learn more about climate smart agricultural technology, you were laughing. Now, but that is our solution now. We are earmarking 17,000 farmers and we help them with the irrigation equipments. That is how they stopped laughing. Then they realized, hey, how did they know? Now, that was part of the UPND agenda because climate change is real, not worldwide. So, I must be fair enough by indicating that these are the initiatives under electricity. The tariffs of electricity went up because of the emergency electricity tariffs. It is called emergency because there was a question. Do you need some power, a little bit of relaxed load shedding? People said yes. But then we have to import it at a cost. They had to go ahead to import it at a cost. If you import it at a cost, then we have to add a bit on the tariffs. That's why it was called emergency electricity tariffs. But again, when it was being added, government knew that an increase in that was also exacerbating the cost of living. It is understood. But then you use the doctrine of a lesser evil. Philosophers understand that. The doctrine of a lesser evil. Both decisions are undesirable. In other words, if you don't import that expensive power, there are effects which are grave on the citizens. When you import, there are effects, but they will not be compared to the effects when you have not imported. And this is a relaxed situation. Now, lastly, so that we move, I've in the process, I've also dealt with the dry spell. But we've been told by Meteorological Department that there will be floods. And you've seen devastating effects. Our friends have died in Mozambique. There are serious floods going on. You saw what happened in last week in Kabuki. Houses being stripped off. The president warned many months ago when he was addressing parliament. He even told the vice president, Madam Vice President, can we persuade our people to move out of the lower land? People are refusing to move. But now some of them have already started calling for government assistance. The president even said, we know that our people refuse, but we have been warned there will be floods. They have started. It's raining. It's raining. And I'm happy with the way Zambians are responding. A number of them are going back to the land, which God has blessed us with. They see the rains, they're rushing there, which is very good. We are also aware that agro inputs are still high because the supply is not yet meeting the demand. Even the $138 million project within Lusaka cannot meet the demand yet. Then what do? Government is encouraging, after relaxing policies, more cooperating partners to partner with Zambian companies.
So before we go
on fuel shortage,
before we go actually to the next one, let me get to still bring you back to this issue of power. You mentioned it, emergency tariff hike. This is for the sake of for us to have at least a relaxed load shedding. But then it's like we are back to default despite paying these emergency tariff hikes. We are still back to default. We have certain areas going as far as 3-4 days without power. Then the question may come to say, why are we paying for this emergency high tariff when we are still getting back to the 4-5 days of no power?
You heard the government responded that supply also from our colleagues has been irregular. So you only pay for what you're going to consume. They'll supply. It is like water. They will pour into your box. So that's why part of the initiatives government is undertaking is to come up with reservoirs. Battery. When you produce power, you're able to reserve it for future use. Okay? Now, it is government had announced that it is also irregular. It's not consistent because countries in the region, most of them have been relying on Zambia. That's why the World Bank, after the IMF gave us this money just a few days ago, an addition money, okay, having met so many conditions, they announced that they are willing to help Zambia with the interconnector, where we're able to connect from here beyond the regions that we have been dealing with. Because most of them have been relying on Zambia. Now we are doomed. They can't give us because they're in negative themselves. So now the interconnect allows us to go maybe in East Africa, Kenya, there. You move maybe West Africa. That is the project now. It's a huge project. So it has been irregular. On fuel, we all know what is going on. The situation has been worsening in the Middle East. We don't produce fuel, oil. But for the long-term plans, your president has signed an MOU with our counterpart in Angola. KK started like that with the Tazama pipeline. When he announced, some people are saying, what is this? How can you come up with something that will come many, many years ago? Some of us will even be dead. But we've been relying on it. So your president signed for a common investment initiative with Angola to set up another pipeline. And in the future, possibly come up with an equipment. Remember that we have upgraded that in Deni. It's even able now to extract ethanol from sugarcane. It has been upgraded. So now the idea is to upgrade the facility because it cannot refine the crude. It is a separator. They will get commingled in for example, in Dar es Salaam, where they would get those days, they would get paraffin, they would get diesel, they put them together, then they pump them at the same time. When they arrive here, the system that we have would now start separating them again. Paraffin goes alone, diesel goes alone, this one goes alone. Now, because of the challenges, government allowed the private sector to also continue importing. Total have their own trucks. And many of these have got their own trucks. Now, if you go to engine, they will tell you we can't reduce. They will tell you the reason. It is not, we are buying fuel from Beira at a high cost. Because the people that are selling at Beira also, fuel is expensive for this ship to arrive. It was delayed because of war on the sea. To follow the Gulf Ring, we had to pack for the next 2 weeks. We could not proceed because the waters were threatened. So after 2 weeks, vessels had to start off. So now there is scarcity of oil. It is acute. The cost is going up. Apart from that, you need to also confront the issue of forex. Currencies in Africa have suffered a lot. I'm sure you saw it. I was looking at someone did a documentary of the West currencies in Africa. I don't know whether you saw it. Then I was shocked. I asked them that, but why is Zambian currency not there? I thought it was going to be there. They started listing them. There was Tanzanian shilling. There was Naira. There were currencies. I was very shocked. Because under the circumstances, what we are confronted with is very serious in terms of our foreign exchange. How does government come out of the foreign exchange that we have? It is our strong belief that the non-traditional exports that we have opened up in terms of investment, non-traditional exports, in the long run will help us deal with the domestic problem of our currency. Which is also a well-known fact that when you reopen the mines, it is not like a garden where you have to plant any maturity, medium, and also the normal one. Mining takes time to stack, first of all, the ore. When they stack the heaps of ore, then they start now transporting them to the smelter. Then they start creating bars. When the stock is sufficient, then they start now pushing them with trucks. We see trucks moving with bars all the way from Kalumbira. All the way from, because the mine had collapsed. Now they are starting. How do they start? They started now by, first of all, paying suppliers who are supplying things, paying all those that are owed, paying companies that are owed. Then now they start replacing equipment. These are the heavyweight, or rather heavy duty machinery you are seeing passing here. Not only one. They want to start production. Proper production. They are moving equipment when you go there. Even 2, 3, 4 days ago, I got to, in fact, last week, I was in Mufumwe. I found heavy duty equipment headed to the mining sector, mining area. Then I said, I think I saw even others now from other countries discussing Zambia. They are saying, hey, look at Zambia. Within 3 years, the mining sector is back. We are using our roads in South Africa. I was in South Africa 2 weeks ago. They are using our roads. We are seeing heavy duty trucks headed to Zambia. Then someone was asking that, why are they not headed into South Africa? That was the question. Now those are other now Africans now, they are questioning. What is so special about Zambia? When you are talking about economic hardships arising from the wars, our friends are seeing heavy duty machines headed there. Then I told him, now those heavy duty machines will not be installed in seconds. They have to be installed. They put up machinery, generate. Then now we can now export more copper to address the problem of our currency as well. How do we address it? We must have enough dollars in our economy because most of the things we are consuming are imported. So every time the central bank tries to intervene using short-term measures, the dollar is swept away within a short period of time because there are many people, if you go to the airport today, the airlines have increased because the president went and signed the MOUs, some of them relaxing visa conditions. Airlines now making money there. Zambia Airways has suddenly opened so many routes. And the shock to coming from South Africa. People rushing to Zambia Airways, people rushing to ProFlight, people rushing to... Now, South African Airlines also has started more than one flight into Lusaka per day. Almost all the regions now are landing in Zambia. The president just went to Angola, TAG Airlines is landing. He went and signed with his counterpart Mozambique, they are landing here. Today, after many, many years, my brother, we have a direct flight to Entebbe, Uganda. They are busy advertising their tourism. On the other hand, the Ministry of Tourism is booming because the people in the hospitality industry now have got residents who are coming to sleep in their lodges and hotels. You can now go to Grand Palace and they'll tell you it is full. You can now go to Asmara, they'll tell you it is full. You can now go to Stay Easy, just 500 meters from where we are here. They'll tell you it is full. You can go to Garden Court in Kitwe, they'll tell you it is full. People flocking here. You have relaxed visa conditions. It just took initiative. And as they are relaxing visa conditions, those people are creating jobs for brothers that have done programs in the hospitality industry because now they can employ them. Now, it is a country we are trying to sort out in different sectors with so many problems, some of them being discovered now. Now, we are getting to where we used to be for the first time after many years. Lance, we are now manufacturing cholera vaccines. We have now started manufacturing lithium batteries that you need for solar, which we are going to be exporting to countries that are not producing, all these countries around us. We are now setting up so many steel plants because the demand for steel structural works is high. So all those things that are being opened are creating jobs. That is how we are able to quantify how many people, how many jobs are being created in the private sector. That's why we can say, so far, over 13,000 youths have been recruited in the manufacturing industry, in the private sector alone. Now, let me wind up by indicating that milling shortage. Huh?
Mm-hmm.
When people talk about milling shortage, usually they're talking about ZNS milling meal. If they talk about this ordinary one from China, which is going above 300, you know, so milling meal is there. So when people talk about milling shortage, they're saying we can't find the 230. I was talking to General Selochi the other day about youths that reported such instances. Should be in Kanyamo Chawam. ZNS went there and grabbed milling meal. That's the problem with us Zambians. We are adding more problems on top of our problems out of selfishness. You have a situation where ZNS outlets have been opened in Lusaka, enough to supply the entire Lusaka. You find the buyers are the same. How possible is it that you can buy a 25 kg bag of milling today and tomorrow you come and buy again? What kind of family do you have? Then when they do that, some of them are going to repackage using existing milling companies, logos, and they start selling again. Now we have to find a solution other than just grabbing their minimum every day. It doesn't matter who is involved, whether one becomes a cadre or what, an offense is an offense. And people are being deprived. Look at Chitirabombwe. All media houses were called, I'm sure you are the representative from here. They went to Chitirabombwe. We wanted to know. Chitirabombwe is a very small community, very smaller than Chingola. How is it that it was consuming more mealie meal than Lusaka? A small town. The government said, no. You can't have all the milling companies in Chitirabombwe. Chitirabombwe is a very tiny town. Let's go and see what is happening. It was discovered people were busy exporting. They closed the border. They're using bicycles in the bush. I know people want to do businesses, but not destroying your own country. Because when you create a scarcity, prices remain high. So apart from simply having the police, you can't have a community which is always controlled by the police. I don't think citizens want to see that kind of country. If we can control ourselves, we don't need police presence every time. We don't need ZNS to go around. We have reached an extent where an officer is being killed because of our recklessness as a country. At all costs, you are taking away the mini meal. We know that Zambia has been a breadbasket when it comes to maize and mini meal. We are aware of that. And so to deal with that situation, more people must plant more maize. We have already identified farming as a business. And UPND is taking farming as a business. And even in more milling companies have started opening. I'm sure you've seen them. Huh? They are opening more milling companies. They have identified this as a business. So we can relish on it.
Well, this is the Tuesday edition of the burning issue, and my guest this morning is UPND research consultant Simuuwe. Let me also be quick to remind you that we are live on Spice FM on 91.1, live on Tutor Radio 90.7, live also on Platinum Radio 99.7, live on our guest Facebook page, Simuuwe, also live on Daily Nation Facebook page, live on UPND Zambia, Falcon Media, as well as also live on Millennium TV, as well as the Facebook page. Not forgetting also live on our Facebook page, 5FM Radio Zambia, and our YouTube channel. Now, Mr. Simuuwe, before I get to engage our listeners, so listeners, you'll be calling us on the number 0955-221515. One begging question that is begging for answers. After that, probably we engage our listener, is the issue of cost of living. As much as you have talked about all these measures or all these nice programs that the government has started, is already doing, and probably looking at what the government is trying to do in ensuring that the cost of living is not too high for an ordinary citizen. Unfortunately, the reality on the ground is that cost of living is high. Just last week, JCTR, through their BNNB report, they said for a family of 5 to survive in Lusaka, you have to be using at least more than 10,000 kwacha. Now you have an ordinary citizen, afola 600 kwacha. How do they survive? How does the UPND government come in to ensure that this ordinary citizen whose salary is 1,500 kwacha, cost of goods are at least affordable for them?
Okay. Now, let me use the same example. Hope you are following when we are dealing with it.
Mm-hmm.
The cost of living is an economic issue. So when you hear that we have recruited over 40,000, that recruitment is an economic issue. You are giving citizens an income that they never had. I'll get to reduce the cost of living. I had already started telling you what measures are being put in place. Okay. So I want you to understand what is happening. To recruit over 4,000, over 42,000 teachers, it's an economic issue. You are giving them an income that they never used to have. Do you get the point? Meaning, had they not gotten this job and UPND didn't come, their situation could have been worse. These over 42,000 families we're talking about, their situation could have been worse. They had no income. Secondly, the over 14,000 health workers recruited, that's an economic issue. It means had UPND not come in, the situation could have been worse. Because worse in the sense that there was employment freeze and there was no hope. No one told you when it was going to come to an end because they had no solution. The next point is that over 4,500 youths, Zambians taken, who went for training in Zambia police, immigration, plus immigration plus. We're talking about over 7,000 if you had immigration. Over 7,000 citizens have been enabled with an income that they never had. It's an economic issue. When you hear that we have increased the number of beneficiaries under social cash transfer by many thousands, it's an economic issue. Had we not increased, the situation could have been worse. When you hear that we have introduced cash for work and work for cash, it's an economic issue. Had we not introduced this, the situation could have been worse. Remember, your president, sometimes when he speaks, don't always look at him from a political standpoint. When he declared a drought as a natural disaster, he was saying the cost of living to eat will go up. 6 million citizens are likely to be threatened by hunger. We have forgotten what your president told you. And when he was declaring it a natural disaster, I thought he was joking. The question you've asked me is what the president was declaring. He was telling you the consequences of what had befallen this country as a result of the drought. 6 million citizens. In other words, if Botswana has a population of about 22.4 million, Namibia about 2.4 million, what we are saying, Lance, in simpler terms, kuli babale kutikabo chakwebati na tuwabula Namibia ichalo chonse cha Namibia necha Botswana chonse twafifika pamo ebantu ebo ubuteko bulelisha under the initiative of DMMU. When the president says no one will die, people murmured. Previously, we recorded people that ever died. There was no such a serious drought. The president said, I'm here as your servant, and I want to assure you, no one is going to die. We have the records, Lance. We have the records. Before you realize it, food for work. People are being given food. DMMU also have gone on rampage in different parts. Then they realize that people are threatened by health activities in remote areas where there are no hospitals. The president with his team quickly revamped flying doctor. Today, flying doctors, 2 aircrafts. They are bringing more 2 helicopters. They have a state-of-the-art hospital. People are being flown from remote places in Zambia, which are never visited by a doctor. They are being flown, brought in Ndola, under flying doctor. So, I want to repeat myself. What you have asked as a question is what the president was declaring. All you need now is to see the relationship. The relationship is that when there is a short supply of food, because many people have not cultivated, meaning there will be scarcity of food on the market, prices will go up. That is not the only thing taking the price of food up. The other thing is fuel. The other thing is load shedding. What is the effects of load shedding? Drought. What is the effects for short supply? Drought. What is it leading to? Increased cost of living. What is the solution? Those are the things I belabored to explain to you. When I was talking about irrigation equipment, look at the solutions. And I mentioned and said, going forward, should we be confronted by a similar situation, we'll be able to brave the storm because we'll have prepared themselves. Because your president says, we want this country to be producing food the whole year. Follow him closely.
Well, let's get to engage the listeners and also get to understand their questions as well as their complaints, which we are here for. All right, lost that particular one. You're calling us on the number 0955221515, 0955221515. Keep your contribution brief and short. Hello, good morning. Very well, thank you. And how are you? Your name and where you calling us from? Woman Sanjay, you can go ahead. Your 60 seconds starts.
Morning, Mr. Sanjay. Fine, thank you. How is your morning and happy festive season? Compliments of the season.
Thank you very much. You are elaborating so well, madam.
Thank you.
Yeah, continue. You see, even the Bible does say information is power. My people perish because they lack information. PF vanabhadwa na propaganda and vazakaenda na propaganda. And if you don't take time to come and answer to their propaganda, it becomes the truth because it gallops. So tia mijira ife fugwa monga ya kutai mwa family input ise mafarmers pano pamene tikambadi nangena via inangena bafaka and ngati mulungu noolola atipase ipitirize so chape in the next 1 month vantu vazagamba kuti tayamba kudya nakudya chifukwa milisi zitamanga my friend kaoza kakamene iyo amene ifundikira CDF marulo yegera kiyamikira chifukwa pamene panalibe kabiriji 1 month kuna ikabva chape yako vana almost 1 month 3 weeks sivaenda ku school ite mafarmers simungatauke kuenda kukamwana koma timabiriji crossing points mwabasa vamdara maskuru ya 1 by 3 1 by 4 amene vakana vapie kuti civil aleke ni chati noanda mwawaona kuti ma message yoenda kuti mwenda ku by election ya MP instead mukambe MP mwakapambana muntu amene who is not eligible apwelelapo muzaba kuina kwa muzaba ina kwa election no information amarume sababu tachifuwa kuti what you are doing now, people are now starting experiencing background, bakara, more power. We just send more years for UPND, long leave UPND and our leaders.
Thank you so much, Monsanje, for coming through.
Thank you. I send my great seasonal greetings to a machine, big machine. My God bless you.
Thank you so much. 0955-221515. That's the number that you are calling us on. Let's get to hear your views or your questions. So let me get to read you one text coming through. It says, Mark, well done for the articulations. PF should not blame the ECZ because PF in 2016 created a constituency called Chitulika and gave all the votes to ECL. In the same 2016 elections, PF brought a man called Chavula from Uganda and was planted in the IT of ECZ. And in the same 2016, they cooked up elections in Lundazi and gave all votes to ECL and cooked other votes for HH. So I don't see any sense in PF crying over those at ECZ. This is Kakoma in Lusaka. Let's see if we can get this one. Hi, good morning.
Correct. The hard man, one of the George compound representing. Mr. Simuuwe, good morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. For me, I mean, it's very laughable that a UPND consultant like you today are trying to defend the crucible. I mean, please, when you talk about Zambia, first of all, before I go into the nitty-gritty, have some courtesy of saying that Zambia was brought by the PF. Then now to come to the nitty-gritty, if you talk about creating employment, you employing 40,000 jobs, you are being economical, or maybe you don't know how the modus operandi of the government is, because the jobs in the government are not sustainable. Those 40,000 workers are being paid by us in the private sector. Me who works in the industry are the ones that are paid those in the government. So those jobs are not sustainable. Talk about creating 40,000 jobs in the private sector. Open up new industries. Are you doing that? No, you are not doing that. Because you have taken away electricity in the industry. Today, as I'm speaking, a lot of people have been sent into the compounds, sent into a mediocrity of failing to provide electricity in the industry. Please, sir, when you are trying to talk to the Zambians, You should come with facts. When you talk about the mines being opened, please, we are not disputing that fact, but if you open mines and give them to your friends, that is criminality. The Mopani transaction was supposed to have been brought in Parliament. What did you do? You gave it to your friends, the Delta mining, without bringing the transaction in the Parliament, which is the corruption and criminality. Please also talk about the food rights that you took away as the UPND. Talk about the KKI gold scandal. Talk about the buying of ambulances. Talk about the transferring of monies into wrong accounts. Then come here and talk to me about employment. So what I'm saying is the UPND, no matter how rhetorical or good in your grammar, you are the most corrupt, the most incompetent government ever. Thank you very much, Maki. Happy Christmas. Hi, boy. Happy Christmas, Natiam.
All right. Thank you, Bamtembo. Let me give you one message from Facebook, and then I give you time to respond. This one is Maxwell X. He says, that's the problem with UPND. You listen so much to what the West are saying more than what we, the people of Zambia, who gave you the mandate, are saying. The economy is in ICU, and you are here talking about how African countries are coming to learn in Zambia. Surely, which country on the face of earth would be so dumb to learn from a country which has an ailing economy, 48 hours of load shedding, high poverty and unemployment levels, and, well, let me use a better word, currency not doing well. You can see Mark struggling to explain what they have done in 3 years. Perhaps this is the reason why the president went and outsourced the PR team. Well, let's get to respond to this.
Yeah, then can I start with the last message? Then I go around like that.
Maxwell?
Let me start with, yes, I think that's a text message that you've sent.
Yes, yes.
So this one says, the problem with UPND of learning from the West. I don't see any problem with that. Because in the first place, this person who is speaking is using English. And where did it come from? It's Western education. And the education hierarchy that we have is Western education. So we need to mature in terms of debates and deal with issues that will benefit the people that are listening to us. The next thing, all the theories of development you're talking about came from the West. You talk about, it's Western education I'm talking about here. Your curriculum is Western education. That's the end of the message. When you're talking about ailing economy, what do you use? You use a GDP. That's Western education. Use inflation. That's Western education. So you can't contradict yourself with the same mouth unless there's a problem. So now he can't speak with the statistics. So let me get back to the issues. When the UPND took over leadership, you are aware that inflation in the previous government had gone above 23%. It has never gone that high. Okay? We found the country highly indebted. It was in a debt trap. We are out of there. The European Union had stopped financing Zambia's parliament because of corruption. They have resumed financing Zambia's budget. They have resumed, effective this year. Social cash transfer was taken away by the United Kingdom. It is back. How did we do it? We engaged in a vigorous fight against corruption by introducing a fast-track court. We have so far recovered more than $30 million. If you not make more than 30 million, so much money, ukwa bags. That's what has been recovered. Then the next thing is saying employment levels are high. They had imposed employment freeze. There was no one being recruited in the education sector, health sector, name them, among others. No one was being recruited there. So that is what we've done ourselves. We have unlocked that because the announcement they made was that they can no longer recruit because they were highly indebted. They could no longer increase salaries because they are highly indebted. For us, we are not even arguing and calling each other names when it comes to salary adjustments. It is automatic because we believe this is what citizens deserve. Okay? And then, when you talk about the ailing economy, and then you have the World Bank publishing that Zambia has shown economic resilience, it's because you don't travel. You heard of that saying. You don't travel, so you don't know what is going on in other countries. You saw protests that were taking place in Kenya. It's because you don't travel. I was telling the youths in Kenya that in my country, we are training youths for free across the country in skills training in welding. They said, what? Is that true? I said, yes, go online, which is not happening there. I was telling youths, we have recruited this number of youths. Now, it is this kind of talk that makes it very hard for them to understand how they were removed from power by the youths themselves. So, in terms of the economy, we can get there. I've demonstrated how the issue of the cost of living for a family of 5 has gone up. What I needed to do was someone coming to challenge me that you talked about ABCD. This is not correct. There was no drought. Because I'm sure you've heard the opposition saying there was no drought. They're ending up differing with journalists. When they say, no, don't even accuse the drought. There was no drought. So if there was no drought, why did the same people ask a question why did they ask a question in parliament on what solutions government had to ensuring that there was food security? So let me talk about the issue that someone raised. I think it's an issue of job creation which was raised. Mutembo. Private sector. Now, Mutembo, ignorance has no defense. You can speak all you can, you jump from one place to the other, you call names. Now, when you demonstrate ignorance to a person that will have the information, you look vulnerable. You demonstrate knowledge bankruptcy. Let me start by sector. In the private sector, manufacturing sector alone, we've managed in 3 years to attract to 13,632 jobs. Mining sector, we are now over 9,432. You remember the midterm? 9 means sector already. Then you go to the agriculture sector as a result of the initiatives under irrigation equipment and the farm blocks that have been, put in place. Remember that in 2022, government released 1 million to audit farm blocks across the country, which have been taken up by ZNS. Plus the private sector in the private sector, the farmers, 8,396 jobs have been created. Transport sector, there are 7,252 construction. Because construction now is going on almost everywhere. How are we getting this? You find the Lusaka dual carriage where you lost 30 million. $30 million US, Lance, is not a coin. It went missing up to now. They can't account for it. In the construction sector, because all constituencies are constructing something. It is either they are putting up a farm block, a classroom block, 1 by 3, or they are setting up a health post. We have managed to get 1,062 people getting their jobs. Now it is more with the emergence of Lusaka dual carriageway. The next point, tourism sector. Jobs that have been created in the private sector. 472 jobs in the ICT private sector. 159 jobs. The real estates. This was strange then. Real estate 106. Health in the private sector, we have managed to get 103. But how do we get these? There should be certain activities that should begin. For example, when you run down Mopani, it meant that those people that have been recorded over 1,000 had no jobs. These are the numbers we are talking about. That's the private sector. Now, if you combine the health sector and the government sector, you're going to get more than 100,000 jobs created within 3 years. Now, he's saying in government, because we are the ones questioning them, why were you not questioning them at your time? That's the difference in leadership. If you knew that you are the ones, the private sector was not growing, companies were closing, my brother. Go to Levy More, where we are here. You saw Wimpy, many others closing there. At East Park, they were closing. People lost jobs. The hospitality industry, which I was talking about, where I was saying, now most of these hotels are getting full. People lost jobs there. There was no one sleeping there. Well, then I want to end up. There's something that he raised. So you need to be fair with yourself when you send information that has no research. You demonstrate knowledge bankruptcy. The other thing that I want to raise, he was talking about corruption. The Transparency International has demonstrated that Zambia has improved in the fight against corruption by 4 points. In many, many decades, we have improved. Previously, Zambia became one of the top 5 most corrupt countries in the world under their leadership. That is why you can see ukwa bags. Can a normal person get 10 ukwa bags in a room and fail to bank? How can you be sleeping and moving about? Then they started externalizing funds. Wait a minute. You heard the president early this year saying, now that we have found the money that they took out, the president is the first one to see the FIC report. And some people think that the FIC report indicating that so much over 3 billion has gone out of the country. They think it is UPND. They don't realize that the moment we started hammering the ukwa bags, they started finding means of running away with the money. That money has been tracked by FIC. And that's why the president said, you will see that money will be recovered soon. So you wait a minute and see who is going to be arrested over the money that is being externalized. The next point that I want to raise, he has raised quite a number of issues. He is saying Mopani should have gone to parliament. Go online, those of you who are watching and those who are listening. All government parastatals are listed under IDC. It's an act of parliament establishment. The Industrial Development Corporation. All government parastatals, ZESCO, Zamtel, all those government companies owned are listed under IDC. Mopani is not under IDC. It is not. Let's talk about ZCCMIH. Under PF, they will not tell you how many shares government had because government never had direct shares there. Instead, government had shares in ZCCMIH. ZCCM is IH, that IH in front, is investment holdings. In other words, they have floated it on the Lusaka Stock Exchange. They are private citizens there. That's how that particular mine was owned. It is not government that owed Glencore that money. So now, in law, you can acquire shares by being a broker. That's what government did. Government had to get shares that they never had directly by engaging Glencore that was owed over 1.6 billion US dollars and now reduced it to somewhere around 600. I think now it's being cleared. That is how now we had to look for an investor. Ignorance has no defense, Bakalamba. If you go to Pakra, you find the owners of Mopani. That is how all these people that were debating, misleading you, have disappeared. They discovered it is not listed under the IDC.
Well, let's
I've
get to see.
I've dealt with the issue of, and then talk about Switchlight. People were arrested. At that time, they were not being arrested. This is the time they are being arrested. You saw those who were found in Switchlight. They've been arrested. The differences in the leadership is not that when people commit offenses, they'll go scot-free. Today, you have the deputy national chairperson for the youth under UPND appearing in court. You have the PSs being fired. Some of them appearing in court over such activities. You have ministers being fired. They are appearing in court. Under your time, the court was used as a cleansing process. They could not be arrested. You are the Mukula exports. And let me tell you, they will still be arrested. Mukula was leaving this country dubiously. They will be caged. And they should not blame others. Can you blame others even for burning a vehicle for other people? They were not there. So I thought I needed to deal with the matters in this manner. We can get more.
Let's get to pick another set of callers. But well, this is due to the fact that our executive producer, Mr. Mkandawiri, has given us a little bit more time.
Yes.
So that we can expound on the next set of questions. Let's pick this one. Hi, good morning.
Hello.
Good morning. You are through to the program.
Good morning, Comrade. How are you?
Fine, thanks. And how are you?
This is Comrade.
Comrade?
Good morning.
Yes, Mr. Mkola.
Yes. No, we are very lucky as a nation because the decision that we made in 2021 has helped this country. Sometimes I do wonder if we continued with the government we had, we have Canadians, those who can go and try to participate in elections when they are not eligible. How do you go and use an eligible player to play a final anyway to win the match? Huh? Can you imagine the money that was being flashed around by Slay Queen, then in the blood energy and the and the Papa Bantuangat? Send the one about one most especially one you have been to Pulivan, and then also for Nilisa Puno, to such a drama of very Masku, and the very different creature. Talk about CPF. people in rural areas, yes, here in Lusaka and other urban town areas, they can say, no, we are not seeing. Go into those rural areas where the difference has been seen by everybody. Yeah? Where bridges are coming out, are being built, classrooms are being improved. When they are saying UPND is not doing anything, not constructing schools, if you put together the classrooms that has been built across the country, how many schools?
There are actually more than 1,000, my brother.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So in short, I'm saying that must continue supporting this, support this government, and the president is here to make this country a better country for all. I think this is what I had.
Thank you so much for coming through, Mr. Mkola. 0955-221515 is the number that you are coming through. Good morning. You are through to the program.
Good morning, my brother.
Kindly turn down the volume on your radio.
Okay, I think one hand, let me turn out.
Okay. Your name and where you calling us from?
Hello?
You are now clear. You can tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
I'm calling from Mr. Banda.
Mr. Banda, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I believe that Simuuwe there was saying they are making their own medicine now in Zambia.
Cholera vaccines.
Yeah, cholera vaccine.
Yes.
But I'm looking forward to you making medicine for
Mr. Banda, your line.
Maybe let's allow him. I
You are able to
understand
grab something.
it's like it's a person living with disabilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Simuuwe.
Abanda, you continue.
Yes. I've got a stroke, my brother.
A stroke, okay. Understood. No, understood. I could tell. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Let me ask this question then. Why can't you make medicine for stroke, please? People are dying for stroke. Me, I had stroke 2 times. And I'm looking forward to have this money which I'm giving to the older people. Me, I'm old, I'm 53 years old. But I can't get access to this cash for what you call. I don't know what money you are giving to the older people.
How old are you, Mr. Banda?
I'm 53 years. I don't know whether I'm young. I'm
53.
And I've been in the house for 11 years. So,
Hmm.
sometimes that's me. So how can you help me, Mr. Simuuwe?
Thank you.
Can you help me?
Now I'll respond. I'll respond.
Hey,
Okay, this is us. I want you to please to make medicine for stroke. If I told whichever country can make stroke for Simuuwe, Simuuwe is the one to make people want to have a good work. Please help.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much,
for
Mr. Banda.
That's a touching question indeed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if
Now-
we can pick the last one, 0955-221515, 0955-221515. That's the number that you are calling us on. Or better still, let me get to pick one message from Facebook. Maybe we can respond to that, also looking at time. So this one comes from KB. He says, good morning, 5FM. My greetings to my super fixer in terms of explaining about how the most caring government is implementing its policies in order to develop each and every corner of our country, Zambia. Like I always say, I am in love with the UPND's impetus to develop this country. Simuuwe, I submit. Well, let's get to tackle with these and then obviously get to wind up.
Thank you very much. Amkosha, thank you very much. I agree with you when you say had ECO continued, could have been worse. And just to add on what you said, we had already reached a stage where the government was failing to pay civil servants. We were told at some point they had to borrow money to pay salaries from NAPSA. That's what they did. They had no money to pay the civil servants. UNZA every month was threatening a go-slow. They were failing to pay salaries there. The next thing they did was to scrap off meal allowances from universities. They had no capacity to run these institutions, which meal allowances we have reinstated and extended them to 7 other universities. The other one that I need to bring out, CDF, I agree with you. My brother, Amkosha, don't even go far. In the 2021, when they should have tried to pretend, they failed to pay 1.6 million CDF. It is the UPND that came in and paid that money. They also failed to pay equalization fund. Equalization fund is where the council makes money through the levy collections. So the deficit is usually cleared by the central government, and that's what we call equalization fund. They failed to pay that money. Council workers, my brother, it could have been worse, I agree with you. They went 7 to 15 months salary arrears. Today, council workers are now getting paid. That's what we have done. We cleared the salary arrears that were owed then. So the situation, I agree, could have been worse. I also agree. I like your explanation where you said, had it not been for free education, imagine how many people, if PF was there, could have dropped out of school. Copper Belt alone, for those of you that are listening to us on Platinum Radio, Copper Belt alone had 600,000 pupils when we took over leadership. Today, Lance, as we speak, we have 1.2 million pupils who are going to school. Meaning, the situation of parents failing to pay for their pupils, for their children, was real. 2 times. We found about 117,000 teachers in the country. Today, we stand at over 150,000 teachers. Numbers don't lie. When they thought we were joking, they were shocked until they saw their brothers getting recruited. Only politicians that have been in government like Ambui came out and congratulated HH over recruitment because he thought it was a joke. He stood and said, congratulations to HH. This has never happened in the history of this country. Now, I've been saying it has never happened anywhere under the sun in the history of planet Earth, if possible, to have what we have done. Over 3,000 teachers that ago. Not even in China, you won't find it. By the way, let me tell you, China does not even have free education. It is only in rural areas and it only goes up to grade 9. Zambia's record has beaten even developing countries. And that's why your president was called to address the European Parliament. What is happening? So someone says, what is there to learn from Zambia? Only people that don't think properly are not willing to learn. You failed to pay council workers for 15 months. Your friend comes, clears the salary arrears and starts paying them. There's something you can learn. You fail to pay 1.6 million. Your friend introduces 36.1 million and starts recruiting youths across the country. The councils are now having graders. You can learn something from there. Debt restructuring, you struggled until you started insulting the IMF, that to hell with the IMF. Your friend comes and your country now becomes the first country in the history of the planet under the G20 to have succeeded in restructuring the debt. And we understand you when you said HH is claiming that he can restructure the debt. He can't. No other country has done that. We are the first. So now what? So the IMF is saying what we have achieved has given hope to indebted countries like Ghana, Ethiopia, and other Asian countries. Your government has succeeded. That's why ZESCO can now sign an MOU with other people. ZESCO was almost taken, my brother. In case you didn't know, you must have heard that there were even some people, foreigners, who were seen now patronizing ZESCO and wearing ZESCO uniforms. ZESCO was gone because of recklessness, because of poor leadership. You go to Lusaka and Dola Duo Carriageway, the groundbreaking ceremony was done twice. HH in the opposition told you, if you give me an opportunity, I can do this road without borrowing, number one. 2, I can have this door, this Lusaka and Dola Duo Carriageway done at half the price. He has done it at half the price. We have not borrowed as a country where you taxpayers will be paying through your nose. Lusaka and Dola Duo Carriageway, you see at supersonic speed it's moving. Now we are going to have airports in each province. Is that in Muchinga? Chinsali will have the first ever airport there. We are going to have an airport in Chipata. We are going to redo Mansa Airport. We shall redo Solwezi. We shall redo Mongu. The country is undergoing a reconstruction. Those citizens that reason well are welcome to support the UPND government and the president and his team together with their initiatives. We mean well for the country. Thank you.
Well, let's deal with Mr. Banda's question.
Mr. Banda is asking about cholera and it's very passionate. Maybe you need to also, vaccines. I talked about vaccines saying, why don't we start manufacturing stroke medicine? This is a matter that I'm going to escalate to the Minister of Mines, the Minister of Health. And I know it's an emotional question. He's speaking from experience. He believes that this stroke, which has struck twice, has left devastating effects on his life. And had it not been for all these things, things could have been avoided.
Mhm.
So some of the things that experts have told us also include food. We need to begin to watch the food that we are eating.
Mhm.
This issue of just eating junk foods and everywhere, we need to revisit our traditional meals, have nshima, avoid highly refined things, at least get things that are fiber, take a lot of vegetables. I've seen many people are having a lot of anemic problems. We take a lot of vegetables, plant our own vegetables, let us participate in producing food. The tendency of always wanting to buy things without knowing how they are planted and how they've come into being can leave devastating effects on our lives. At least I've got that background in terms of watching what we eat. Avoid all these cakes every time, sweet things, which are made out of refined materials. I think that is very important. The Ministry of Health has been emphasizing on such issues. Very important. You can, if you don't have a yard, I have seen in Istanbul, in Turkey, people that have no backyard garden, they put vegetables because they don't want to buy in flower pots. 22nd floor, someone has put 5 flower pots. They pluck out vegetables from there. So we can have something to learn on things that are progressive. Thank you very much.
Well, Mr. Simuuwe, thank you so much for coming through. Really appreciate you. And this has been the Tuesday edition of the Burning Issue. My guest on the program was Mr. Simuuwe, who is the research consultant for the United Party for National Development, UPND. This program was also live on our partner radio stations, whom we thank. That is Spice FM on 91.1 in Central Province, Tuta FM on 90.7 in Luapula Province, as well as Platinum FM on 99.7 in Copperbelt Province. We're also live on our Facebook and YouTube channel, 5FM Radio Zambia, as well as also Millennium TV and their Facebook page, Daily Nation Facebook page, UPND Zambia Facebook page, Falcon Media Facebook page, as well as our guest Facebook page, that is Simuuwe. God willing, let's get to meet again on Thursday for the Thursday edition of the Burning Issue. My name is Lance Sannie. Do have a pleasant afternoon.
Tune in next week for another edition of the Burning Issue, and thank you for your participation. Democracy and freedom of